Hello everyone, Marco255 here and welcome back to another video. So, a little context on how this video came to be. You may have heard of this small game which got a little popular in 2021 called Friday Night Funkin'? Yeah, you also may have heard of this small mod which released recently called Indie Cross as well. That mod features 3 separate indie games in it, if you don't know. Cuphead, Undertale, and Bendy and the Ink Machine. I only played 2 of those 3 games before playing the mod. The other one I never really played up until the making of this video. So, because of the game's inclusion in the mod, I decided to see whether the game holds up, so I bought it. The gameplay you'll be seeing is the gameplay on my very first playthrough of the game, so every now and then you'll probably see some big mouse movements at Jumpscares. Side note, buying Bendy and the Ink Machine and Boris and the Dark Survival together in a bundle was cheaper than just getting Bendy and the Ink Machine on its own, which was funny to me. Anyway, I'll split this video into the 5 different chapters, any bonus content, Boris and the Dark Survival stuff, a ranking of each chapter, and my overall final thoughts. This is actually one of the first horror games I've beaten, so I probably got scared more than I should have. With that said, let's start talking about Bendy and the Ink Machine.
Alright, Joey. I'm here. Let's see if we can find what you wanted me to see.
Chapter 1 mainly feels like build-up for what happens at the end of the chapter. This game, like many other indie games, never intended to get as big as it has gotten now, so there's not a lot to talk about here, really. It starts off with a letter being sent to the protagonist, known as Henry, saying to come to the old place he worked at, Joey Drew Studios. The letter itself is from the man himself, Joey Drew. You then start the studio where the entire rest of the game is set. Your first task is to find the titled Ink Machine, which has a very significant presence. Its reveal is awesome and you see it at later points in the game going further and further down into the studio. You then need to turn on the machine by going around the immediate area and finding 6 different materials to place on these pedestals, turning this wheel, and turning this wheel in order. Throughout doing this, various unsettling things happen, such as some of the bendy cardboard cutouts moving around and even peering down a hallway, all seemingly on their own. All these unsettling things and unnatural movements build up the tension inside you and make you more and more unnerved throughout the entire chapter, until you turn the machine on and go back to it, where the moment all this build-up was leading to happens. Yeah, this payoff is great, and all you have to do is just run to the exit, where you'll be safe. We fall, and we get a little tutorial on the axe. Then you see a pentagram and 3 images of the ink machine, a wheelchair, and Bendy himself. And you pass out. Overall, a great way to start this game. It does feel a little like it was trying to appeal to the indie horror algorithm at various points, but it's unique enough to feel like nothing is too tropey. Also,
I'm out of here.
Oh, my head. What happened?
so a lot happened at the end of chapter 1 there, so you're probably wondering, what the fuck? Well, a bunch of those questions will be answered in chapter 2. After running through a few areas with the trusty axe, you see, hey, it's the guy who sings the aggressively mediocre song Ritual from Indie Cross. He just straight up ignores you, and after following him, he seems to have straight up disappeared into the wall or something. You then make your way to a power station, which you need to turn on to make progress, so you do exactly that. You then reach the area you spend most of your time in at this chapter, the music department. It's pretty chill around here, you get to play various instruments, but before you do that, There's a tape which you can listen to from the leader of this place, Sammy Lawrence, talking about a switch Joey put in his room that distracts him. Well, that sucks, but it doesn't really matter now, right? Anyway, there's a tape from a different person about something weird this Sammy person did, implying you gotta do the same. So, let's go do that. Yeah, here's where one of the few glaring issues with this game really shows the true colours in my opinion. I'm not really that big a fan of the combat. Maybe it was just the way I was playing the game, but whenever I hit an enemy, the enemy would hit me back immediately and it just didn't feel right. Thankfully, combat used isn't too much in this game. It's mainly about solving puzzles and avoiding enemies when you have no combat options available. Anyway, a little puzzle here starts after defeating those guys about you playing various instruments in a specific order. Various instruments in a specific order. Oh my god, if it happens again. You gotta play the instruments in an order which is stated in a tape by Sammy. There, I said it. Not gonna lie, this took way longer than I'd like to admit to figure out. I think I either just didn't realise the door was there, or I tried the door too far away, and just thought that meant the door was locked. I don't know, it's quite simple really. You can enter a room with a lever, which you need a valve to work, so you get that by going down into tunnels and crushing an ink monster. This allows you to deal with ink blocking your way to the exit by pulling the lever Sammy was talking about before. With all this being done, you can finally leave the establishment.
Rest your head. It's time for bed.
Yeah, you get cucked by Sammy himself, who's this weird humanoid ink thing, who's also the guy we saw at the beginning of the chapter, who is also the guy from Indie Cross. Yeah, see, it all came back. He basically tells you that he's gonna sacrifice you to his quote-unquote lord, aka Bendy himself, so he can finally leave the establishment and leave his inky body thing. Long story short, Bendy ends up murdering Sammy, and Bendy's coming for you now, so you gotta run. After running away for a while, you enter a room and a can of bacon soup rolls by, implying someone's there. Henry calls for them and...
Someone there? I know you're in here. Come out and show yourself.
You are entitled to a beautiful new blue passport.
Boris?
This marks the end of Chapter 2, a great way to get you to understand exactly how this game will be structured from this point on. Whilst Chapter 1 feels more like a gotcha for people playing this blind, Chapter 2 gives you a good feel of the setting and gets you interested in what happens next with the lore and exactly what the fuck is going on here. It's just a really fun time that got me excited to learn more. Anyway, on to Chapter 3, which does some stuff similarly, but just as much different too. Oh yeah, one more thing.
I'm out of here.
We start the chapter in a safe zone Boris made for himself, where you need to make Boris some bacon soup to continue on with Boris. I said Boris a lot then. After going through corridors, you end up at a dark corridor in which you need a flashlight to see it. After getting the flashlight, you go down that corridor and hear some ominous loud footsteps run by, neither Henry or Boris knowing what it was. After brushing that off, you come across a dead end which Boris vents in to continue. You can't come with for some reason, but after a while the door opens and you enter a huge open space known as Heavenly Toys. After looking around for a bit, some ominous humming is heard, and you continue to a place with a toy machine which you gotta turn on.
I don't be seeing what the big deal is. So what if I went and painted some of those Bendy dolls with a crooked smile?
After doing exactly that, a new pathway opens which leads to an area with lots of merch and cardboard cutouts of the character, Alice Angel. The lights turn off and some screens play a classic animation with an Alice-themed song in the back. This is fine, I'm sure nothing will happen. Oh golly geez, something wacky just happened. After some dialogue with Alice, you gotta go a different way to get to a choice between going the demon path and the angel path. Both ultimately leading to the same thing, but both having different lore tidbits, such as the demon path having a tape from Joey Drew, one of the few in the game, where he talks about some surprisingly thought-provoking things about believing letting you do anything, even cheating death, which is quite interesting. Anyway, after going down one of the paths, you get one of the usual Bendy cut-out jump scares, but we actually know who did it. Boris! He's back after venting previously, and you spend most of the rest of the chapter knowing he's in safe hands around you. You then take a gent pipe from him, and now need to open a door by finding 2 levers, which doesn't take too much time. Yeah, when this happened, it totally caught me off guard, and it was probably one of the worst jump scares I had in the game. But hey, it's the mechanic from Last Reel. I can't believe this game takes so much inspiration from that week in Indie Cross, man. It's really cool. Anyway, after getting the levers, you go to an elevator which takes you to a floor with not too much except a doorway leading you to a room with a load of unsettling Boris corpses and butcher gang bodies. And Boris just runs up to one and stares at it in what I can only believe to be sorrow. It's genuinely a quite depressing moment, but you've got to press on. You then enter a room with Alice herself, who's been talking to you on your journey here. She basically tells you some lore stuff like how she was one of the small ink monsters the first time she was reborn, and her current form is her second rebirth, and tells you that you need to do some stuff for her, then she'll let you out of the studio. In order, you need to collect 3 gears from level K, collect extra thick ink here from swollen ink monsters on level 11, collect 3 valve cores on level P, destroy all Bendy cutouts on level K in Heavenly Toys, which summons Bendy himself, and you gotta hide from him, which I failed. Kill the Butcher Gang, and finally, collect 5 ink hearts from the depths of the studio where you meet the projectioner, where I think you're supposed to use the dummy gun, but the game didn't give it to me, so yeah. There's a lot to do, and it may sound annoying, but you only need to do one at a time, and it's mostly fun, albeit a little annoying when there's only one thing left and you can't find it. Anyway, after all of that, which is like 2/3 of the chapter, you give the funny hearts to Alice and she finally lets you leave. Just kidding, this is an indie horror game, you fucking dumbass. Boris is fucking terrified and you pass out when the elevator comes to a stop.
I know who you are, and I know why you're here. You will not stop what needs to be done. Now come down and bring me back my forest!
When you come to your senses, Boris is there to wake you up, but oh god, oh jeez, that's actually quite bad. Alice is behind, slowly walking up to him. She then takes him away at an instant, marking the end of chapter 3. Overall, a little tedious and repetitive doing fetched quests over and over and over and over and over and over again, but it's still really fun overall with a lot of lore stuff and jump scares galore. Let's go full steam ahead onto chapter 4, baby. Oh shit, also.
Alright, Joey. I'm here. Let's see if we can find what you wanted me to see.
Well, what are we waiting for? We gotta get Boris back. After going through a few corridors, you end up in this room. Strange. There's also quite possibly one of the weirdest tapes in the game, as, well, you can tell. Anyway, you need a wheel to open a door to the archives room from this room, so you go get that and make your way over there. Over here there are more strange things, like a few ink sculptures in specific poses at the front and text above saying, "He will set us free." There's a door which you need to press 5 books in the bookcases around this area, and nothing strange happens during this, no, not at all. After doing that shit, you enter a weird cave area where you gotta find your way to fix a gondola, allowing you to continue. This introduces the concept of these contraptions that allow you to create various things, such as a gear, a music box, a dog bone, etc., by getting an ink block from the same swollen ink monsters as in chapter 3. Naturally, this allows you to travel across the bridge. Well, that's a problem. You then run up this staircase where Alice gives you some dialogue, making you hate her more and more the longer she goes on and about, ooh, I'm gonna kill Bowie. She's like, yeah, I get it, murder. Once you reach the top, you see an ink person crying for help and wanting to go home, which seems weirdly out of character for them, right? Well... This moment is surprisingly somber and emotional as all these guys are just standing there watching you, probably jealous that you've not been taken by the ink. One guy is in the corner crying his eyes out. You can't do anything about those guys at the moment, so you just gotta vent like Boris did previously, and yeah, this just kinda happens, and that's really one of the 2 times you see Bendy in this chapter. It's quite weird. After venting, you enter a room with a tape from a guy called Bertram Piedmont, maybe the weirdest name ever, with him down-talking Joey about this amusement park and him being called Birdie and hating that for some reason. You pull a lever and welcome to Bendy Hell. Yeah, most of the rest of this chapter takes place here, where you need to get the power to the place by entering this scary-ass room with these scary-ass Bendy dolls, dealing with the Butcher Gang again. Oh!
Tell me, are you having fun? I'm sure Boris doesn't mind waiting for his rescue party.
Going to the attraction storage room with a boss against the living attraction thing, which is honestly quite forgettable. I don't really care for it too much. And dealing with the projectioner again, and oh god, I'm even more scared of Bendy now. After doing all that stuff, you enter a roller coaster ride, with Alice saying even more lore tidbits, and at the end...
Boris! Oh no, what has she done to you?
Yeah, that's actually quite sad, as we spent the whole chapter trying to get him back, but we were still too late. And you get this sick-ass boss fight against this zombie Boris thing, which tests everything you've learned so far. This is probably the best boss in the game, in my opinion. It requires quick reaction time, finding the right time to strike, and overall it's just really fun to take him down. Then you realise it's Boris, and you get sad again when you kill him, but there was no other way. Then this happens. Marking the end of Chapter 4. Honestly, this one is quite forgettable to me. You can remove quite a bit of it without it impacting the story too much, but it does have some of the best moments in the entire game. On to the finale, Chapter 5. Oh shit, forgot to mention.
I'm out of here.
Yo, the best song in Bendy's main week gets a chapter named after it. Awesome. Anyway, you wake up in a cell-like place where you can hear someone singing a tune to themselves who, after looking out of the cell, is a different form of Alice Angel. This makes sense in context, I swear. There's basically a lot of dialogue here, so I'll just say the most important bits. Henry introduces himself to Alice, who says she doesn't know her real name, and that she doesn't know if she can trust you. After going back to rest and waking up again, you see Alice needs to go to level 6 and leaves you with a different, meaner form of Boris. He hates you for no discernible reason. After that, Alice gives you a bit of food which doesn't really look too appetizing, but it's fine as Boris throws the bowl down like the prick he is. We then see Alice writing on the walls again, and she says it's the only way some people can be heard. This version of Boris seems to be called Tom, as he just responds to it. Alice then gives you a glass thing that allows you to see hidden ink messages around the studio, named the Seeing tool. Tom seems to have done a big oopsie and has alerted the ink demon so he knows where we are. Oh god, he's here, and Alice and Tom ain't letting you out for their own safety. Shit. You gotta find a gent pipe inside the toilet and get out that way. You then make your way to a boat which you need to get on to continue. Okay then. Anyway, you gotta get on the raft and deal with these massive hand things that drag you in by destroying ink splodges on the paddle wheel. Once you do that, you enter a village-looking area where, wait, what the fuck? Sam isn't dead. Okay then, again this makes sense in context, but I'm not here to explain the lore to you, just the events of the game. Watch Game Theory or something to understand this shit. Anyway, you take off Sammy's mask, then get pinned to the ground, then Tom comes back and clanks him in the fucking head. Yay. It does kinda look like he's gonna murder you for a sec, but it's fine. There's then a big wave of ink monsters that come at you, Alice, and Tom, and you gotta fight it off. It takes a little too long to me, honestly, but it's not 20 years long, so it's fine. Anyway, after that, you can finally stay together with Alice and Tom for the next few bits. Just kidding, you should be used to this by now, dumbass. You then fall down to the film vault, where you gotta get 3 gent pipes, and place them at these pipes. How do you get those pipes, I hear you asking? By going through the administration to get an ink splodge and making it into the pipe you need and avoiding the butcher gang. Oh. For some reason, Bendy comes out after getting the first pipe and never again, when there's literally a closet right next to you, so it's not really a problem. Although that could just be my playthrough and I'm just lucky, because I never really encountered him outside the required moments. It was only like once. This place is surprisingly difficult as the butcher gang just comes out of nowhere and all the time, and you gotta plan out your every move. It's quite fun. After putting all the pipes in place, you can enter the vault where Alice and Tom arrive out of nowhere. Yay! We need to get through a door, and we need to get 3 gears, a crowbar.
Some kind of counterbalance. Huh.
Well, thanks Tom for not needing us to do the 20,000th fetch quest for an Alice character. After going down a few corridors, one of them, Bendy, just appears casually. You finally reach the one, the only, ink machine. But Alice and Tom can't get to it because...
A drop of water in the ocean is rarely seen again.
Damn, that quote is deep. Anyway, it's just us alone entering the ink machine. Say your last goodbyes to Alice and Tom because there's no going back. However, what is in this place is quite unexpected. A chair, TVs around playing Bendy cartoons, and a tape. Once you play the tape...
It's simply awe-inspiring what one can accomplish with their own hands. A lump of clay can turn to meaning if you strangle it with enough enthusiasm. Look what we built. We created life itself, Henry. Not just on a silver screen, but in the hearts of those we entertain with our fancy moving pictures. But when the tickets stopped selling, when the next big thing came along, only the monsters remained. Shadows of the past. But you can save them, Henry. You can peel it all away. You see, there's only one thing Bendy has never known. He was there for his beginning, but he's never seen the end.
Bendy turns into this amalgamation, and the final boss starts. There's 2 phases to this thing. First, you'll go around and pull these levers that allow you to open a door to the next area. It's relatively simple if you get lucky with how Monster Bendy moves, which I did, and as I only died once. The second phase involves you making Monster Bendy ram his ugly mug into pillars, which house ink. Once all 4 are down, you've done it. It's honestly quite easy and kind of underwhelming. You play the CD named The End, and this happens. After that, you're teleported to a house which looks wildly different from everything you've ever seen in the game, where drawings and letters from various people who worked at the studio are shown. You've probably guessed whose house this is, so I'll just play the ending cutscene for you all.
Henry, so soon. I didn't expect you for another hour yet. Now you're just trying to impress me. But I know. You have questions. You always do. The only important question is this. Who are we, Henry? I thought I knew who I was. But the success starved me. Nothing left but lines on a page. In the end, we followed two different roads of our own making. You, a lovely family. Me, a crooked empire. And my road burned. I let our creations become my life. The truth is, you were always so good at pushing, old friend. Pushing me to do the right thing. You should have pushed a little harder. Henry, come visit the old workshop. There's something I need to show you.
All right, Joey. I'm here. Let's see if we can find what you wanted me to see.
Thus ending this thought-provoking, interesting, really fun game. I will say that the final boss is a little underwhelming due to how easy it is, but hey, that ending more than makes up for it. Now it's time to go over any extra content in the game. Oh damn, I nearly forgot to mention.
Hopefully no one finds out what I've done, because if they did, I can tell you what would happen. I'm out of here.
First of all, after the credits, the screen shows that you can use the seeing tool to see the hidden messages in all the previous chapters, which is pretty nice and incentivizes multiple playthroughs. More importantly, you unlock the Archives chapter, which allows you to see previous models of things, the thought process behind the designs, concept art for each character, etc. Stuff like this is always a blast to learn about for me, like how the original concept for Bendy is miles different from the current one, and that the Butcher Gang are the only characters to have their monster forms made before the cartoon forms. Speaking of them, I don't think I've ever seen what their cartoon versions look like. Oh, hold on. Oh, that's what they look like. Nice. That's pretty much all the bonus content, honestly. There's not really a lot, so let's just jump into Boris and the Dark Survival. This game tells the story of the awesome Boris from Chapter 3 and the end of Chapter 4, showing what he was up to before those events. I haven't beaten the game yet, but I've played a fair portion of it, and it's pretty good. You gotta go down to a randomly generated floor of the studio and collect 6 random objects whilst avoiding Bendy, the projectioner, etc. Overall, this kind of game has always been one I've wanted to play more, and it's more fun than I expected it to be. You can also find various miscellaneous things such as tapes, candles, keys, etc. to unlock various things such as new dance moves for the music, new music tracks in general, unlocking the Butcher Gang as characters to fight against, etc. Overall, from what I've played, this game is really enjoyable, and it's really fun when you get all the supplies and the enemy can see you from anywhere. It's very adrenaline rushing. It's obviously not nearly as good as Ink Machine, as it was mainly made for us to have something whilst we wait for Dark Revival, the full-on sequel to Bendy and the Ink Machine, but it's still worth checking out considering how cheap it is. Finally, onto the chapter ranking. Wait a second, this is the final time, I swear.
They're out of here.
The weakest chapter in the game, in my opinion, is definitely Chapter 1. Obviously, it started the whole thing and all, but I feel like you can clearly tell that the devs never intended to make this a full game, even with the improvements from the first version of Chapter 1. That doesn't mean it's bad, though. The tension builds more and more throughout the whole thing, and it ends off really well. Chapter 3 is next. It's mostly just 20 quintillion fetch quests, but it's not really annoying in any way to do them. At least in my opinion. The Butcher Gang make their first appearance here, and the projection also appears first here, and they're kind of annoying to deal with in general, both of them. But that doesn't detract from the chapter's introduction to the annoying shared in a good way, Evil Alice. Chapter 4 is next. Whilst it does have a weird Butcher Gang section where you gotta throw a can to distract them and it feels really off, and that weird sentient merry-go-round boss fight is kinda dumb, it has a killer ending, and it's still just a bundle of fun nonetheless. Chapter 2 is surprisingly at number 2 here. It's got a lot of explaining to do after what happened in Chapter 1, and it does it immensely well. I love the puzzles with the music, Sammy's just an awesome character, it just feels really nice to play through, and it's not too long. And finally, Chapter 5 is number 1. You can clearly tell that the devs wanted Chapter 5 to shatter all of our expectations by how much more there is here. It has everything, from great story moments to great gameplay moments to just the right amount of confusion. Everything in this chapter makes everything come together in the best way possible. Joey Drew Studios really outdid themselves with this chapter. So, does Bendy and the Ink Machine hold up in any way from the peak of its hype in 2017? Yeah. Really well in my opinion. Other indie horror games like Five Nights at Freddy's and Hello Neighbor to most people have clearly lost their footing in many places since then. In terms of FNAF, I mean the older games, the newer games are pretty cool, by the way. But this one is an outlier in that I think it's far better than anyone gave it credit for. There's still so much I haven't gone over in terms of the story, so I highly recommend you check out this game for yourself. It's on every mainstream console and Steam. Anyways guys, that just about does it for today's video everybody. I really hope you all enjoyed it. And if you like my channel, then why not subscribe, click the like button, check out these videos, share with friends and family, check out my Twitch channel and click the bell. It'll let you be notified when any new videos come out. Anyways guys, I hope you all have a fantastic day and I'll see you guys in the next video. I'm outta here.